There's no point in saying he's not a good line-up forward. He's one of the best line-up forwards there is. Do you know what I mean? And I think Ribbons is a good line-up operator as well. But I think our line-up options are better. Pete's one of the best line-up options in the world, hands down.
Who do you select from the English squad and put into your Irish starting? Name one player.
None.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I'm hesitant to rule them out.
I want to talk to both of you then about James Ryan, and there was a great moment in the France game where it was late on. I can't remember exactly what Ireland were winning by, but I think we essentially kicked, it was possibly a kick-off. James Ryan was one of the last men at their goal line, basically making a last-ditch tackle. The issues he's had with injuries and HIAs and the tournament he's having is endearing.
Yeah, it's massive. Like, I think just their ultimate work rate for each other is just huge. He has an engine like we've never seen. I think Bard is probably coming up behind him with that as well. But their work rate for each other is just phenomenal. And if they can keep that going, like, he'll be unstoppable.
What is that then?
Just with James, I think one of the most things that I'm most impressed about this Six Nations is his leadership and his decision making. And even last week, so he would have started with Ian Henderson. Ian Henderson would have been calling the lineouts. So then Hendy goes off injured, and then we call him Cheese. So Cheese starts calling the lineouts. But then with everything that's thrown at him as well, with two hookers gone, with Josh throwing the ball in, being able to call a line out in an international Six Nations game with everything on the line, he was able to do it, and he was able to call the right calls when. So it was just so impressed with how he handled that.
So I put it to you this way, right? Ireland under Farrell look a team that is almost enjoying life more than it did under Joe Schmidt. But could a Joe Schmidt coach team have been able to almost as seamlessly cope with the adversity that happened in Edinburgh as an Andy Farrell team?
It's a hard question. On the day, we probably
could have made those sort of splits.
Absolutely. You know, back in the day, Shawnee O'Brien was a good thrower in the ball as well. I would have backed us to do anything, you know. But it's hard to hypothesize about it.
What has Farrell brought that Schmidt didn't have?
God, a lot. Their open play attack, I think you just can't tell what they're going to do. They've so many options there, which is fantastic. I think just it sounds really silly, and you would hope that a lot of players would anyway, but I actually just think they just love to play the game and love to play for each other. And even just hearing that the family were brought in during that captain's run on Friday.
The photo of Farrell and his grandson. I mean, how of course it made the front of every paper. How would that not bring a smile to your face?
Yeah, I just think he's really brought in a whole community spirit to it, and as I said, they're just enjoying playing with each other.
And yet Mike Catt says they can play an awful lot better in terms of that sort of style or whatever.
Yeah, look, I don't think you'll ever have a perfect game of rugby, but if that's where the bottom line is, what's the top level, and that's quite scary, I think. And
just mentioning Mike Catt, he also spoke this week about the humility of the players, and I don't know these lads at all, but you just get this warm vibe off them that they enjoy playing with each other, playing for their family, playing for their country, playing for their coaching staff.
That just doesn't happen. I think I go a bit further and say about Andy Farrell. I think that he's the template for future coaches, because he's got all the ingredients to be he is a fantastic coach, and that comes from playing the game at the highest level. So he's got the respect of the players. He's been there, done that. A lot of coaches haven't played international rugby. He's a nice guy. I haven't met him. I've met him a couple of times, but he seems a nice guy to have a couple of beers with. So he's brought that whole family atmosphere we're talking about, that camaraderie. He doesn't bag the players in the media. He's always very positive. And he comes from a background that he's learned, like all good managers, he's learned off Joe Schmidt, because he came in there as a defence coach, which is really important in the modern game. He then learnt the positivities from Joe Schmidt's era. And that was the building of the team. And then he brought in people around him, a bit like Clive Woodward before. All these coaches, Wayne Smith, all these great All Black coaches, they've always had people in place to look after various aspects, and he's really positioned them well. Mike Catt is one of those guys. He brought him as attacking coach, and he was criticised for the first few matches, but Farrell never bagged him and stood by him, and it's paying dividends. So he's created an atmosphere we talked about. Players want to play for him.
Where would Mike Catt, what would he assess the attacking out of 10 since he joined, when he says we can do a lot better than this?
Well, from the first few games, probably a 4 or 5 out of 10 because I don't think people were buying into it at that stage. They were just trying to get wins, a bit like Borthwick is at the moment. You can't plan an attack when you just come in overnight. But I mean, now he'd have to be looking at an 8 or 9 out of 10. Yes, of course, it's like golf. You never have the perfect game, but the introduction of guys like Mac Hansen and Lowe and the back three, I mean, they're world class. You know, you've got
And the two lads
options.
in the Southern Hemisphere, they bring a smile to the whole group as well, don't they? The two wings.
Well, especially James Lowe.
Yeah.
I used to think, was it his mouth guard or was he just... But like, you know, and the shaking of the hair and everything like that.
But they're also two lads you would just like to have a pint with, kind of thing.
But that's what I mean. I mean, you know, Hansen was watching the game. I think we all know the story in Australia a couple of years ago, and somebody said, why don't you try your luck with Connor? He's just got that sort of playoff or whim sort of attitude about him, and you know, even the mic drop and the kind of the tash and the tattoo, whether he had a bet with somebody else to get a tattoo done for somebody in the teammate. But yeah, it's a refreshness in this team, and as I say, they're just enjoying playing rugby, and as long as you have that at the core of your value system, that you enjoy it first, you'll always be successful.
Why would my cat say that as well, where he's like, we can do an awful lot better attacking?
Because there's always room for improvement. Always room for improvement. You never have a perfect game. You never have a perfect season. So there's always stuff you can improve on, and that's what builds success. Really, like you can't rest on your laurels because every other team is going to get better around you. So you need to get better as well. You know, so you have to say that. Like,
well, exactly. Oh, you've had the perfect game. Then you have nothing to improve.
It could be misconstrued as arrogance as well when Ireland are the best team in the world at the moment. I think he genuinely believes we can improve a good bit more.
Well, absolutely.
Which is amazing.
If Michael Johnson, the great runner or something, turned around and said, "Okay, there's room for improvement. I want to get a world record," would he be regarded as arrogant? No, he'd be regarded as highly competitive and wanting to be the best he can be. That's all he's saying.
But if you ask any of the coaches, if you ask Paulie, can we improve the line out? Absolutely can. We've lost 1 or 2 every game. Like,
Scrum can improve.
Can we improve the defence? Of course we can. We've missed tackles, but we're still the best team in the world. You know what I mean? So there's always loads of stuff to.
What's Paul O'Connell's influence been like?
Yeah, huge. Yeah. Like
any surprise at all at his success?
No, absolutely not. No, like, do you know what I mean? He did it when he was a player, and he's doing it now when he's a coach, and he just is instilled obviously an ethos around the line out, and we're just taking the easy ball, and we're getting the majority of them. Do you know what I mean? So and it's just a fantastic platform to play off, and I think he's done a
so
fantastic
much respect
job
too, hasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what we talked about Farrell. So much respect.
If you're like Ryan Baird and James Ryan and Kieran Treadwell,
he was their poster. Post on the
Paul
wall.
O'Connell's coaching you, like, do you know what I mean? It's brilliant.
Would you have any concern about the physical repercussions of how tough that Scotland game was today?
No.
No. You were unbelievably confident.
I'm not unbelievable.
We're the best team in the world. Yeah, we beat New Zealand. Yeah, we were. Yeah, you were.
As I said, I'm not unbelievably confident, but I'm hesitant and wary as well. You know, but I think obviously we are going to win. There are obviously some injuries, but I think as Brent said, it's the depth that we've kind of built over the last while that will stand us.
What are your concerns today?
That England want to come out and raid on our parade and kind of if they're able to kind of physically dominate us like they have in the past, like I think was it 2019?
You playing through? No, you were
2019. Yeah, I think I came off the bench or I'm not really sure, but I remember Sinclair had a class game, and they just physically dominated us, and that's the difference. That's the difference. Yeah. So if they're able to come out and do that today, you never know, you know. So just wary, you know.
Kind of want to be in your box now for the match, but Katie, we've only a minute before the ads, and I can't wait for the second half of the show because we'll get to the nuts and bolts of the game itself and some memories of Ireland and England as well, going back to Michael Kiernan and so on, and great memories of Croke Park and Lansdowne Road. Briefly, what are your concerns today? Where could this possibly go wrong?
I think it's the same. It's just the physicality. I think the anger and the hurt from potentially last week, especially, I think they could really come out and rain on the day. But I also just can't see it happening at the same time. Physicality. If we can match their physicality, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, it's all coming up. And just a live score as well. Scotland 19, Italy 6. There's about 20 minutes to go. They're a quarter of the game to go. So Scotland looking in control there. We'll be back after the ads. Loads more to come.
Join the conversation at News Talk FM on Facebook for the latest headlines, videos and thought-provoking podcasts.
Try the latest cordless vacuum cleaner technology from Samsung with a full 100-day money-back guarantee on selected models. For more information and a full demonstration, call to Power City today.
The Heineken Champions Cup is back. Leinster take on Ulster in the round of 16. Saturday, April 1st at 5:30 in the Aviva Stadium. Join the Sea of Blue for this massive inter-provincial clash. Tickets on sale now at leinsterrugby.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
What's a gigabit?
Air Gigabit Fibre Broadband is our best ever broadband. Way better than cable. It's your own line straight to your home, so no more sharing with the neighbours.
Mrs. Murphy was on my internet. What is she saying?
Sign up today and get 1 month free. Plus, Virgin Media customers save up to €300 by switching to Air. Call 1-800-500-300-GO in store or visit air.ie.
Offer subject to location and availability. 12-month contract. Setup fees may apply. T's and C's apply. See air.ie/save300.
This year, the standard petrol grade in Ireland will change to a greener fuel, E10. E10 is already the standard petrol used in Northern Ireland, Britain and many other European countries. As a cleaner fuel, its introduction will help Ireland meet its climate targets, reduce emissions and drive our change to a more sustainable way of living. To find out more, please visit gov.ie/E10. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Starting a new chapter can be the most thrilling thing in the world. And the new all-electric Audi Q8 e-tron range marks the start of something even more exciting, where progress is a matter of character, where an idea stretches as far as you wish to go with the range to get you there, and where charging times are reduced, freeing you up for even more adventures. Discover the fully electric Audi Q8 e-tron range at your nearest Audi dealer.
Everyone likes a bargain. The spring clear-out is now on at Flanagan Cairns Bray. There's discounts on most stock, including display sofas and mattresses, with huge reductions of up to 50%. There's discounts on rugs, mirrors, pictures and lamps, and there's free assembly and recycling of your replaced bed or mattress. So hurry, the Flanagan Cairns Spring Clear-out is now on. Flanagan Cairns, Bray Retail Park, Flanagan Cairns, furniture for life.
March into spring with hotel breaks from just €80 per night. Choose from hundreds of incredible Irish and new European hotel deals at gobreaks.ie.
Go Breaks! Scenes of the earthquakes in Syria and Turkey have touched the world. The crisis may no longer be on the news, but the needs of children are only increasing. UNICEF is helping children in urgent need of shelter, food, water and hygiene essentials. So please visit unicef.ie and give what you can. Thank you.
In a big sporting week, the Irish horses did us proud at Cheltenham. Discover all the great stories behind the winners in the Irish Field this weekend. Our on-course team of Leo Powell, Rory Delargy, Mark Boylan and Ronan Groom dissect all 28 races. Speed Figures guru Andy Bate crunches the data and we pay tribute to the amazing Honeysuckle. There's over 30 pages of festival coverage, including photographer Pat Healy, with all the gossip from behind the scenes. The Irish Field, we're all about the horse.
Follow at Newstalk FM on TikTok for the latest news, reports and trends from our presenters and reporters. On 106 to 108 FM, on the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud and smart speakers. This is Newstalk.
It's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Sean O'Regan. A man has been charged with the murder of Emma McCrory in Dublin late last year. 53-year-old George Turner, with an address at Fairview Avenue in Fairview, appeared at Dublin District Court this morning. The court heard he had a history of mental health difficulties and was asked to recommend he receive a psychiatric assessment while he's in custody. Miss McCrory, a mother of two in her 40s, died after a fire broke out at her house on the Howth Road in Clontarf 10 days before Christmas. The US president believes the International Criminal Court's decision to charge Vladimir Putin is justified. Joe Biden says his Russian counterpart has clearly committed war crimes. The ICC's issued an arrest warrant over allegations Moscow forcibly deported children from Ukraine. But Sergei Markov, a former advisor to Mr. Putin, says the claims are baseless.
The stupidity and irresponsibility of the International Criminal Court. It's the policy of the Russian government to save children, not to steal children.
A teenager is in a serious condition in hospital after a single car crash in Kildare last night. It happened at around 10 o'clock on the Rathangan Road in Monasterevin. 2 other teenagers were taken to Midlands Regional Hospital to be treated for their injuries. Gardaí are asking anyone who may have seen the crash or anyone who has dashcam footage to come forward and make it available. Donald Trump says he expects to be arrested on Tuesday in the criminal case in New York involving hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels. The former US president posted on Truth Social in block capitals that illegal leaks from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office indicate his arrest is imminent. He also urged his supporters to protest and take back our nation. Finally this hour, the countdown to kick-off at the Aviva Stadium is on as Ireland host England with the Championship and Grand Slam up for grabs. We asked these people who they think will come out on top this afternoon.
I think Ireland will win, but I hesitate to say that in case a curse is put on them. So may the best team win, and I hope it's Ireland.
England's going to get smashed.
Come on, England!
The only way England will win is if Ireland don't turn up, basically. But in sport, anything can happen.
Best of luck to Ireland, and that's your news update at 2:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Plan the perfect Easter family getaway with flights to Madrid, Paris or Rome.
Outbreaks of rain will move east across the country today, clearing into the Irish Sea later in the afternoon. The rain will be followed from the west by sunny spells, but there will be a few showers in Ulster. Highest temperatures of 9 to 13 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Yeah, Italy are making a game of it here. It's going to be back to a one-try game here with 14 minutes to go, and I think as much as we have, obviously, our Celtic cousins and so on and so forth, our great relationship with the Scots, and how much we have in common as national characters and all that, I think it'd be nice to see Italy make a go of this. What are your memories of Ireland v England? I think no game stirs the emotion like it, and possibly rugby does it better than football because it happens so often. Back in 1973, some of you listening in will remember the height of the Troubles. England lost 89 at Lansdowne Road, got an unbelievable reception because they showed up, and it was the captain John Pullen, his immortal words, we may not be very good, but at least we turn up. And did you turn up in the Legends game yesterday, Dev?
I turned up.
Yeah.
I don't know how well I played. Malcolm O'Kelly got man of the match.
A big sound.
Yeah.
How did it go?
It went well. We lost. Most of the tries were like kick throughs or intercepts and stuff. So it was like there was a bit, some hits going in, but it was mostly jogging and a couple of drag tackles.
Brent obviously remembers the Moss Keane line. You're not familiar with the Moss Keane Bill Bowman, so we're not. Brent and I aren't really sure if it's true, but it always makes me laugh. So. This was in the day, as it normally was, where England were heavy favourites against Ireland, and Bill Beaumont and Moss Keane are standing for the anthems, and Bill Beaumont says, "May the best team win, Moss," and he goes, "Geez, I hope not."
Another language used. I heard it was the referee said, "Hey guys, have a good game, may the best team win," and Moss turned around and said, "I have and hope not." Plenty of Moss stories.
We'll get back to some memories, but first of all, Johnny Sexton, so it's his last Six Nations game. Talk to me about him and where he stands in the pantheon of not only Irish rugby greats but Irish sporting greats.
Jeez, where to start with him? Look, Johnny's been superb from probably day dot when he came in, and I think he's just grown into this leadership role as well, which has been great. He puts his body on the line. He expects so much from himself and others around him, which naturally just brings on a team, I think, as well. I think without him, we obviously probably have a couple of questions over who's going to take that jersey next. But
where are we on that in your regard?
I don't think we've cemented probably second 10 just yet. It's probably one of the only positions we probably haven't, to be fair, but it's really difficult when someone like Johnny Sexton is ahead of you as well, so we've a bit of work there to do. But I think even looking at the under-20s coming through, I think there are people there. We just have to make sure we nourish them and bring them forward with us. But yeah, what an unbelievable sports person.
you know, the atmosphere at Lansdowne in the rugby game has been criticised and all of that, but I think it's notable in the Six Nations this year that people aren't necessarily going for a drink in the middle of the game, certainly in the France game. And you do feel today, with all that's going on, the Grand Slam, first time if it happens in Lansdowne Road, and the Johnny Sexton thing, this is going to be a special day to be there.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive weekend, or massive game. Like, the atmosphere, I think, will just be magic from as soon as you step into the stadium, never mind from the end whistle. But look, I think obviously, as you said, Patrick's weekend, England, I'd say half people are still going to be celebrating from yesterday, we'll call it.
I think you had different words over the break.
I did, but we won't go there. Yeah, look, I think it'll be absolutely magic, and I think it'll be a game to remember. Absolutely.
We spoke about your school's rugby memories. What did you come across a young Johnny Sexton in those days?
Yeah, since we were in 4th and 5th year. Yeah, always played together since school days. Always the same, always giving out, always telling you what to do, where to go. That's what's made him so good, though. You know, I think.
Did you know of him before you played against him, if that makes sense? Or was there?
I knew of like this class 10 in St Mary's.
Right.
Yeah,
how was the chat at that time?
Just that they have a class player in 10. Yeah, like just chit chat really. Like you know, the same of that they were talking about. Oh, there's this freak playing for Castlelock College kind of thing. Like.
Who was that? Was that a term of endearment, actually?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what, after that, then, so you play against him, you play with them. How can you put him into words at this stage?
Do you know, it's hard. Like I think Peter Mahoney said it well during the week that he has made rugby better. You know, he's made Irish rugby better, and obviously the rugby world is better for having him in it. And I think it's a testament to him of the amount of games he's played, the amount of Ireland games he's played, the amount of points that he scored, and just how the esteem that he's held in by everybody. And I just think he's been a phenomenal player, an ambassador for the game. So I can't say anything more about him, to be honest. Like I think everyone else has said it already. Like, you know,
isn't it more as well that like an out half in say Popey's era was one thing, an out half in this era where the hits that he's taken and for his longevity and consistency as well at this stage of his life to still be the player that Ireland are almost like, how do we replace this one player we still don't really know the answer at this stage of his career?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like, but again, any world class player is going to be hard to replace. You know what I mean? And then whoever does end up becoming the next heir to the throne, I suppose that we're going to obviously build the team around them, I suppose, but. He's just done such a phenomenal job about shaping the shape that they play with and the attack, and I'm sure like he's worked with Joe, he's worked with Faz to shape their attack, and it's kind of grown with them as a team, and obviously he has the key to how it ticks, you know. So I think it's whoever takes over after has to kind of shape it themselves as well.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, isn't it? Like, be yourself as well. Don't be like, what would Johnny Sexton do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's he like as a character? Like in terms of, because you can't be that good without having something special about you in your head as well.
Something special about you? He's special. Like, look, do you know, he's a very personable guy. Like everyone gets on with him. He loves to laugh and a joke. He can be a bit of a messer as well, slagging. But again, he's still quite intense when it comes to training, when it comes to his preparation, his everything else. But when it comes down to it, he's a good guy, good family guy, good friend. You know, so he's just a top guy.
Where does he stand in the out halves that you've seen since you came to Ireland 30 years ago?
Well, he's, as Dave said, in American sports terminology, he's the quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, he runs the whole show, and you need. You know, he's probably saying he's a bit misunderstood personality-wise, but you need an abrasive guy that can run the cutter, as I used to say. You need an abrasive guy that's going to give out to other players around him and that. So that's not what he's like off the field, but he's just ultra competitive. Where he'll stand, if Ireland win a Grand Slam, he's going to... Well, he probably is now Ireland's most decorated player. If you look at World Player of the Year, if you look at the European Cups, if you look at the Grand Slam before, if they win another Grand Slam, he'll certainly be Ireland's most decorated player. And I would put it to other players, will he be Ireland's greatest ever player to date? And that's a debate. Because other people, obviously Brian O'Driscoll comes in that fold, Paul O'Connell maybe comes in that, Keith Wood. There's been a lot of marvellous players, not as decorated as him. Because remember, Brian O'Driscoll never actually won the World Player of the Year. Johnny Sexton has. I still think people would say that Brian O'Driscoll was the best in the world at his position, which was the centres, whereas Johnny Sexton's going to come up against Dan Carter, Johnny Wilkinson, those sort of players of his era. But certainly he will be one of Ireland's greatest ever sports people, not just rugby, one of Ireland's greatest ever sports people because of his achievements. And if they go on to win a World Cup, which they could, then yes, he may well turn out to be one of the greats, but he's certainly one of the greats of rugby.
There was that moment in the URC game against Connacht in the RDS. The game was effectively over, and he took this really heavy hit to the face, and you remember there was a big concern about him. I was just like, you're absolutely mad. Like, you're literally, Ireland have the biggest Six Nations campaign, possibly the biggest year of your career for Ireland, and you're going into this tackle 60 minutes into a game you've won against Connacht in the RDS, endangering yourself, and that's obviously part of his genius.
Yeah, I think he just, I suppose that's what you love about him as well, isn't it? Like, he gives everything every time he steps onto that field. Super competitive, just wants and expects more every time. But then there's also that huge belief within himself, but also for the rest of that squad. And he's absolutely mad at times for sure. But I suppose I don't think he can control that at times.
He's had to battle a bit too, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he had
absolutely.
Contemporaneous at Leinster, so he had to go off to France, then behind Rog, and all those sorts of things. So he's had to battle for his position. But just going back, you wouldn't want a player that's not going at it, because that's the way that he plays. And, we've all played at a level here where sometimes if you hold back, that's when you get injured. Yeah. So I fully expect him to be still going at it as hard, that he's not the type of player to step back and say, I don't want to get injured here, I've got the rest of the season. But because he's not that type of player. He's a player that meets the defence on the gain line. He loves to tackle. He loves to be abrasive in the clear out and all those things. That's part of his game,
Yeah, I want to just go back briefly to Andy Farrell as well. And I kind of compared it a bit to Jack Charlton earlier in that I think we have an affinity with people from the north of England, I think in Ireland, and Andy Farrell just seems to have brought this thing to the team where people want to play for him. He just seems like a nice guy. What would you say about him as well for somebody who actually knows him and has dealt with him? Because as somebody who's never met him, I feel like I know him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. As you say, he's quite a nice guy. People like him. And he's bred this environment that people like to be in. They like to, and there's nothing better than being a team that's winning. And once you win, you want to win more. And obviously, it's a really good environment to be in when the feeling around it is so good. And he is just one of a number of coaches, obviously, who is facilitating that. And everyone gets on so well. And as we alluded to earlier on, he did really good things with bringing families in and getting family days and just really getting a good environment there for the players. And people enjoy it, And as I said, once you start winning, you want to do it more. And he has, as I said, bred that environment.
When you worked under him, has his success since surprised you at all?
No. Joe built the foundation there, and Faz has just built on it. Do you know what I mean? And I think he's added his own little things to it as well, and along with Paulie and Mike and Simon. Do you know what I mean? They all have their little parts to play in it as well.
How important is that delegation then? When you spoke about Cheltenham and Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott are successful because they know that people working under them can ride the horses every day. How important is those guys you mentioned delegating responsibility to people you can trust within your team?
That's the whole thing, is it's about trust. Do you mean Faz is not going to say anything to Paulie about lineouts or Foggs about scrums or Caddy but I'm sure he has stuff to say to Caddy about attack and defence, but because he has his own philosophies there as well. But again, it's that trust in your trust in the coaches and trust in the team as well to do their own thing. So it's huge.
Your last game was in 2020. What's it like playing England?
Was it against England? I think it was.
Your last game was actually. Your last game was Andy Farrell's first runner in charge. So 2020. Obviously, a part of you wants to be out there today, and I imagine maybe not after you had a good night last night. But what's it like playing England? Is it as special as it looks?
Yeah, it's the one fixture that you look at and you're like, okay, I can't wait for that. It's the build up to it, everything around it, the week leading up to it. Everyone knows that Ireland is huge, especially home games, Paddy's weekend. It's always the hype around it is huge, and obviously there's all the history and everything leading up to it, and yeah, it's a huge fixture, and everyone just loves to be, and everyone wants to be involved in it. Yeah.
Martin Johnson's 2003, what happened then, I think nobody will ever forget that. That was brought up on the Independence Day, and he spoke, I think 5 years ago now, off the ball about what happened then, and yada. He put it maybe a nuanced kind of impression, but he did say, which really struck me, he was like when you remember Willie Anderson against the All Blacks, where he basically went up and squared up them, and Willie, like he said, like, the noise that day, I actually was shaking myself, and I didn't really realise what I was doing. But Martin Johnson did say, like, when they sang the Fields of Athenry subsequently, he was like, that's, I think, one of the only times in my life where the hair stood up in the back of my head. This is a special game.
Yeah, look, I think the crowd is going to be massive here today. Like, I think Ireland v England, no matter where it is, Twickenham or in the Aviva, I think it's a massive game. There's just, as you said, so much history involved. Any Irish person gets fully involved in it, and everyone hates the English, bar the English, really. So I think
hate's a strong word, maybe.
Sorry, okay. But, likes to see the Blues.
We know where you're coming from. What's your favourite memory of Ireland v England, actually?
I quite like the 2018 game in Twickenham. Snowed, 24-15, I want to say, but just the way we played, full of confidence, I think that was probably one of my favourites.
It was one of the games, I think it could have been the start of either one of those years where it was snowed off. Ireland were due to play England, I think, in the first game, and I think it was Carr, he was the Ulster guy, he said Doyle put us through one of the toughest sessions ever. We went to O'Donoghue's for the day and the night, and it was a different era in those days.
Different era.
But you think of the Kiernan drop goal and what that meant to like Ireland's Triple Crowns in the 80s when the country was really struggling economically, and what it meant to the people then. And I just said this earlier, I would implore, if you're going to that game today, realise you are at a special moment here. A lot of people can't get tickets for this. Keep your phone, including you, Brent, which amazed me. How could you not get a ticket?
No, if you talk about memories, for me, I was lucky enough to, I did the television coverage for about 25 years. So I was lucky enough to commentate on a lot of the English-Irish matches. The most special one for me was Croke Park. 2007, just because of the whole GAA history and stuff like that. I remember Conor O'Shea, who was on the pin up that stage, they invited him in the day before to talk about the history to the English camp, just so they understood the whole history of Croke Park. Just the respect, of all the spectators there from England and also from the North and also from the Republic, and that it was just this game that brought players to tears and emotional. Nothing to do about that, just to do with the background, let alone then Ireland going out and winning by 30 points or something on that particular day. It's still a record. And always remember Shane Horgan jumping up, GAA style and scoring a try. It was just the emotion around the whole history of this event that being brought to GAA and how respectful. People thought there was going to be trouble on the day. There was no trouble. So people stood and clapped for the anthems, and they were just so respectful. It was a day for me where sort of rugby transcended just the game. It was all about the emotion. So that was a special memory of those games. But, you're right. The crowd has a lot to play today. To get behind this team or something and make it a memorable exit for Johnny Sexton. So there's a whole lot in the Paddy's weekend and the Cheltenham people coming back flush with money.
I don't know about that, actually. not my mates anyway. But absolutely,
the crowd have to play their part today to be that 16 man, because Ireland will need them at times in the game.
Absolutely, and I think as well, when you think about this, if it's our fourth most participated sport in this country, the fourth most participated sport, Katie, for us to be essentially better at the English at the moment, significantly better than their own sport, but that there is a real respect among English people for Irish rugby, what they've achieved, and as much as you mentioned hatred, and I get where you're coming from, there was 800 years and all of that, the history, the English people who come over today, there's a lot of respect, and it's a beautiful occasion today to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, hatred was probably a bit of a strong word, but I'll take it back. But I know where you're coming from. There is a massive respect there from both sides, to be fair. But I think, that 16th man is going to be massive today. There's going to be times where England come hell for leather, as you said, like they're angry and they're hurt. And if that crowd can play a part in it, then absolutely we have to see that today.
What are your earliest memories actually of Ireland v England on the TV?
Not too many, to be honest with you. Like I don't remember 2007.
What?
I know.
I'm thinking of like Simon Gagan and all this.
I know.
I'm talking Ollie Campbell. It's on black and white TV.
Yeah. Who's Ollie Campbell? No, I'm only messing. Joking. It would probably be around that 2007 time, but I don't remember the Croke Park game.
Yeah.
What about you, Dev?
I was at the Croke Park game in the crowd. I got a ticket.
Another
ticket. Class for it. Yeah.
A moment like that inspire you to think, geez, if I could do this someday, this would be pretty amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I was in the academy at the time. So I was in the academy. So I came out of school in 04, so academy 06, and then I was on my first year development contract. So I think I got it through Leinster, the ticket or wherever I was able to buy one. But I was in the crowd and just seeing like it's an unbelievable,
John Hayes,
unbelievable occasion. Yeah, the ball crying. It was brilliant.
And you think as well, if Sexton were crying before the French game, what's it going to be like today? Like because. And I don't know, like that stuff.
No, I think it was more emotional for that game for some reason, because that was the key game. That was always going to be the key game. You got
dangerous words. Yeah,
today's the key game as well. Today's the key game.
Today's a key. Look, we're all saying what everybody knows, that let's not get overly confident or overly cocky or anything like that, because the worst could happen, and we acknowledge that.
But the forwards against France and the second half against Scotland, I was like, this is a phenomenal rugby team. Like,
they're phenomenal. Here's the speak coming out of the camps, which is expected, that England are not talking about winning this game. They're talking about moving forward from the defeat. So that, in a sense, tells you something about where a successful game will be for them. In other years, it would have been, we're coming here to win at all costs, and we're here coming for our own Grand Slam, our own Triple Crown, or whatever it was at this stage. They are coming here to put down something and say, look, we've learnt from the defeat against France, and we've got to move the ship forward. The speak coming out of the Irish camp is, if not now, when? We're top team in the world. We've beaten New Zealand away in their own backyard. We've beaten France at home in a tough match. We've beaten South Africa in the stage. If we can't win it now, when do they win it? Because all the aces up the sleeve, Doris is back, Sheehan is back, Johnny Sexton's back playing. Like, all the ingredients are there.
Well, actually, yeah, and on that, Dev, like, I mean, where's your pride?
They just have to win. And also the motivation. Ireland might have been, over the years, might have been out of the competition. England might have been coming for a Triple Crown. Ireland might have been nothing better than to spoil the party over so many of those years. But look at the motivation for this Irish team, to give Johnny a send-out. That'll get an extra...
Yeah, so I'm wondering, is this a calm Irish dressing room beforehand, Dev, or is it like, there's a lot of emotion going on here? I think the Sexton thing is huge. It's Ireland v England. It's history in the making. First ever Grand Slam at Lansdowne Road. Are they like, lads, a rugby game, chill out, we win?
It'll be calm. It'll be nervous. There'll be a lot of nerves.
Good or a bad thing?
Good. Yeah, good nerves. I think... the thing about having probably a quiet dressing room, I think obviously the nerves and like it's good. Like there'll be no shouting or hooping and hollering, what I mean? Like kind of, but there'll be a little bit maybe before we go out, So, but the emotion will definitely be there. But I think once the ball's kicked off, the nerves are gone, and you'll be able to get into the game then.
Scotland have overcome Italy. I'll get you the score line. I think they won quite comfortably in the end.
Would a worry? Well, obviously it's a worry, but just throw it to the panellists. Would a worry be, the worst thing that I could see happening would be Johnny got injured in the first few minutes of that match, and because you lose a bit with Gary Ringrose leadership not there. I know Robbie's coming back, but he hasn't had much rugby. He just concentrated on his own game. That would be my worry.
Okay, very, very briefly on that, Dev, in a few words. I wouldn't be worried at all, actually, what happens with that.
My worry would be if there's like a red card or something.
Yeah.
If there's a stupid high tackle.
I mean, it wouldn't be a worry at all if Johnny goes off.
I think the belief this team has, I think today they're 1 to 10 favourites. They're 15-point
so
favourites.
You lose.
Not today.
I would have a lot of faith in Ross Byrne coming off.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But to say it wouldn't be a worry.
It wouldn't. Well, I'm more confident than you, and I obviously don't know about rugby. Katie, is this a worry? Very briefly.
No.
Absolutely. Listen to Katie. And listen to Dev if you're in. What box are you in today?
438.
438.
Why has it been a worry for so many people going to the World Cup without Johnny Sexton?
Not
and yet
today,
it doesn't
though.
matter today.
Not today.
With a whole
Ireland,
team,
they're just
Of course, Ross Byrne stepped up the plate. What I'm saying is that any team loses a world-class player in the first 10 minutes, that is their captain and their player that guides them around the pitch. And to say it's not a worry.
Well, Rory O'Connor puts in the Irish Independent today, they're playing a bad team, playing poorly. That's who England are at the moment.
I take all that.
If that's the case, I'm with Dev. If they were knocked down to 14 men, that's definitely a worry. 15 men, Ireland just win today.
Why then that should be the worry based on what Ireland have done with 14 men this season?
I would. Well, 14
against
against 15 for 77 minutes
then,
would be difficult. Yeah. Brent is actually coming back. I'm going to get a selfie with Brent before we fall out. I was trying to get you a ticket a few minutes ago. This week's Saturday panel is brought to you with thanks to Carry Out, Ireland's largest independent off-licence with over 100 stores nationwide and voted Ireland's #1 off-licence in 2022, now delivering nationwide. Visit carryout.ie for more. Brent Pope is going to stay with us and watch the game. Turned up 2 minutes late as well, which I mean, okay, we have time to ask you for your predictions, starting with you, Katie.
I want to say Ireland by 13.
Dev?
Yeah, I was going to say like 26-10 or 26-12 maybe. Ireland.
And a good night. And a good night for all.
And a good night for all.
Yeah.
Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the days you got to celebrate. Thanks a million for coming in, guys.
Thanks.
And we shall be back after these.
On News Talk. Life and Leadership with Bobby Kerr.
Brought to you by Amundi.
A News Talk original.
Bernard Brogan is not just a success on the pitch, he's a big success in the business world too, and we talked life and leadership.
In my sporting life, I always used to go for the gap, literally go for the gap, and in business life and everything, take risks.